Republican Brian Kemp has declared victory, says he will begin his transition to the governor's office today, but don't forget, his opponent, Stacey Abrams, she's not conceding yet.
DeSantis has declared victory. Gillum has conceded, but he has tweeted saying that he wants every vote to count.
Bill Nelson has brought in a high-powered Democratic lawyer from Washington, D.C. to oversee this recount.
Well, in closer, particularly contentious races, Democrats, more so than Republicans, seem to have a problem conceding defeat. Now, it can't be that the other guy won fair and square. It has to be that either the election system broke down or some mystery votes are hiding somewhere or the entire process must be tainted. Well, then there's the other way to explain a tough loss. Well, the voters must be racist.
Donald Trump's instincts were validated in big sections of the country. The incitement strategy, the racial demagoguery, it worked.
Trump's Republican Party is getting increasingly older, increasingly whiter, increasingly rural.
The other thing that could be happening in Florida is the old Bradley effect. I mean, which once affected, lowered the election day vote totals of black candidates. Former L.A. Mayor Tom Bradley, who kept running for governor, and polls would show that he would win, and somehow on election day he would lose.
It's all mired in race. Even after Democrats flipped the House and many minority candidates won from coast to coast, once the results in the Florida's governor's race and in Georgia rolled in, Adam Sewer of The Atlantic published this piece. It was titled, "America's Problem Isn't Tribalism, It's Racism." In writing, if Republicans ran on their policy agenda alone, they would be at a disadvantage. So they've turned to a destructive politics of white identity, one that seeks a path to power by deliberately dividing the country along racial and sectarian lines. They portray the nation as the birthright of white, heterosexual Christians. Yeah, Adam, that's what those policies that led to record unemployment for African Americans and Latinos are all about, stoking racial and sectarian ethnic fears. It's absurd. The most despicable use of race in the midterms came from the Trump haters and some Democrats.
Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
Sign me up in the category of the people who think he's racist. He has said so many racist things.
When you don't want to talk policy, you call him a racist.
He is a racist pig.
Making overtly bigoted, racist statements, attacking brown people, attacking black people.
When bizarre and suspicious racist robocalls were reported in Florida, remember, Republicans, including Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott, immediately and vociferously denounced them, as they should. Back in 2016, the media tried to paint Trump as the one, remember, he wasn't going to be accepting any of the results of the election.
Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well, Hillary responded to that like this.
That's horrifying. You know, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. That is not the way our democracy works. He is denigrating, he's talking down our democracy.
Talking down our democracy. Well, the media echoed Hillary, outraged that Trump would ever challenge the legitimacy of an election won fair and square. But all their faux moral outrage was exposed when Trump actually won in 2016. Suddenly, our sacrosanct representative democracy, it wasn't so sacrosanct after all.
Mr. President, I rise today to discuss legislation I introduced to eliminate the Electoral College and ensure that the candidate who wins the most votes will be elected president.
Yeah, the heck with the way the framers set it up. Let's just dispense with it since we lost. Now, Republicans, even the president, of course, they had their own hang-ups about legitimacy, Obama's birth certificate, which Trump himself focused on. But almost 2 years into the Trump administration, many of the diehards, after all, they're called the resistance, still do not accept the results.
I believe in trying to work with people. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
My personal view is that it was not a legitimate election.
He's our president. Your president.
Angela. No, not mine, not mine. I'll never.
No.
I think that there are lots of questions about its legitimacy, and we don't have a method for contesting that in our system.
No wonder people are losing faith in our democratic system. Listen to those people. Now, according to an Axios survey, just 51% of Americans said they have faith in the country's democracy. A whopping 37%, more than a third, say they've lost faith in it. My friends, this is really distressing for America's future. If the people decide the system's rotten, they're really saying the country's rotten. And soon they're going to be saying it isn't worth protecting anymore at all. But let's hope that we can turn this dynamic around. There's too much craziness out there. And this means that both parties need to do better at focusing on issues, the issues the American people care about, instead of just perpetual grievance politics. It's getting old. Look, some recounts are mandated, and they are in Florida. And if the margins are close enough, Republicans and Democrats, they should both ensure that any recount is done fairly, no creating ballots where none existed. Now, but I got to say, it was hardly reassuring to learn today that in Florida's most populous county, Broward, the elections chief there is a Democrat named Brenda Snipes. Now, Brenda was found guilty of violating state and federal law for destroying ballots in the 2016 congressional race when those ballots were at the time subject to a lawsuit. And breaking within the last couple of hours, we had a lawsuit filed by Governor Rick Scott against Broward and Palm Beach counties. Rightfully, he's going on the offensive against this entire shoddy practice. Republican lawyers, you better make sure that Democrats do not start torching absentee ballots in dumpsters in Boca or finding other ballots other places. Let's all just remember that while losing is never fun, and we remember our losses, believe me. We remember 92, we remember 96, we remember 2006 during Bush midterms, 2008, 2012. It's never fun. But I'll tell you, losing our democratic process would be catastrophic. And that's the angle.